Okay, we're here at the column, and now we're interviewing Tony Award winner Lea Salonga.
Hi.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you too.
Now, upon doing my research on you, now I don't know if you're aware of this, but have you heard of the term EGOT?
No.
EGOT means a person or a star who has won the Emmy, the Golden Globe, the Oscar, and the Tony.
Right.
In the theater Broadway circle, it is the trifecta of a performer that can win the drama desk, the outer critic
circle,
Tony, theater world.
Right.
Did you know that you are a handful of female stars of Broadway that have ever done that in one
Wow,
season?
really?
Yeah.
Oh my. Awesome.
So
That's pretty awesome.
congratulations.
Thank you.
You're in that rare elite group of people that have won all that in one season.
Yeah, the thing is with the Theater World Award, you can only get it when you're debuting.
Debuting, yeah.
So if you're a seasoned performer that gets to win Outer Critics, Drama Desk, and the Tony, it's possible to do that. But if you have already debuted on Broadway previously, then you can't get the Theater World Award, which is unless you get that for your debut years previously.
When I watch the telecast, like we all theater freaks do, on the Tony telecast, you look so beautiful.
Thank you.
You look so adorable.
I was so young.
You're so, my Botox. When you won, who was sitting next to you?
My brother.
Your brother. I don't know why this sticks in my memory. And honestly, I still remember this image. When you won, he really pounded your back.
I know. I had so many people asking me the day after, because there were a lot of people that saw it in the Philippines as well, which is where I'm originally from. And I got phone calls and it was, congratulations, is your back okay? I was like, why? What happened? I said, no, because Gerard, who's my brother, he was smacking you on the back. And the thing is, at the time, I didn't feel anything. I guess I was just so pumped up with adrenaline. And it wasn't until we videotaped, back then before the days of TiVo, we videotaped the telecast and we watched it back, and I'm like, oh my God.
It does.
That looks like it hurts.
It did. It looked on camera. It was like, oh, what if she's hurt? Because when you went to accept your award, you kind of took a breather, like, there's my back, there's my back.
No. Didn't even realize anything was happening.
And I have to confess to you, and this is totally the honest truth. I have the DVD of the 25th anniversary of Les Miserables, which was filmed live at O2
in London.
And there are two numbers that I watch over and over and over again, which is Bring 'Em Home and yours, I Dream a Dream. I've seen that production. I saw it on Broadway. I've seen it on tour so many times. It just recently came through Dallas.
Right.
Again. And still, I mean, I've never heard it sung the way you did that night on the DVD. And thank God they captured that. I don't know if you remember, but you got such a long applause after that number. It was just because I was at home watching it just bawling because it was your interpretation of the lyrics. I think is what was so moving, and the way your soprano voice glided effortlessly right into those high notes. Because most of the past actors I've seen play that role, they tend to do like a step on each note to get to that top one. Yet you just glided like you were on butter.
Thank you.
So, what was it like singing that number that night and getting that response from the audience?
Well, I have to first give acknowledgement to one of my friends who had previously done Fantine in the Philippines in a production of Les Mis over there. And I went to her when I got the role of Fantine on Broadway. I gave her a call or sent her an email. I was like, what do I do? I'm going to be doing this for real. What do I do? She's like, just read the book. Read the Fantine passages from the novel. I dreamed a dream. Will never be the same after that. So my husband's in bed and he's fast asleep, and I tend to stay up at night. So I'm reading, and it's available pretty much anywhere on the internet. You don't have to buy the book. It's public domain. So I was reading just Fantine, just who she is, where she comes from, the circumstances she finds herself in. You will cry reading this, and I'm like, this is one of the greatest pieces of literature, and I'm just sobbing like a baby. And so my husband wakes up and he's like, honey, are you okay? And in my head I'm thinking, how on earth am I going to do this every night? Sing this song, knowing all this, having all of this information and all this backstory on this character. How am I going to do it? And well, thank goodness rehearsals help. And being amongst a group of people that are incredibly funny in person, as in every member of the cast has a wicked sense of humor, and we all get together for poker games in between shows and that kind of thing. And I think that was one thing that saved my head from going into that deep, dark place that a lot of people can get into doing a role like that. So there was a lot of levity backstage, which could enable me then to do dark stuff and ugly stuff on stage. And I have to also give credit to the associate director, who was working with me. We had worked together in the past on Les Mis in London, because he put me into the show over there when I did Ebony many years previously. He was doing kind of maintaining the show in the U.S. So he sat me down and said, what you're doing is pretty good, but I'm just going to tell you this, don't be afraid to get ugly with this character. And so it was incredibly liberating hearing that direction from him. And so I just kept on pushing things, and sure, I'd get notes to pull stuff back, but for the most part I just kept seeing how ugly this woman could get. And there really is no bottom limit to this woman. So when I now going to the O2, I had 8 months of doing Fantine on Broadway in my body, and so when the time came to do it in the concert, I didn't have to think too much. I just remembered the passages from the book and kept all that as vivid in my head as I could, especially in a room where you're singing to 15,000 people.
Oh my God, I know. It was just the way it seems on the DVD. You're like, it's mind-blowing. You were, of course, in Miss Saigon, which again was another difficult
Crazy.
arc of a character.
They were sadistic.
Bless your heart. The character arc, you had to go from there. Flower Drum Song, which I thought you were wonderful in.
Thank you.
Beautiful performance. And then, of course, Les Mis. You are the first Asian to play both Fantine and Ebony.
Well, I was the first Asian to play Ebony. I think the first person who ever did the show at all. But there have been Filipino women that have played Fantine before I got to it.
Oh.
But on Broadway, probably the first one. But there was somebody in the West End, and then there was somebody on the tour.
You are the first on the Broadway. I didn't know that for a fact. As we are fellow actors of color and different race,
right?
What is your personal opinions on non-traditional casting and the issues with non-traditional casting?
And I'll just be honest and frank
Please do.
about everything. There are times when it actually does work. I mean, in a show like Les Mis, where everybody's pretty much on an even playing field, you can play around with casting and you cast on merit. It does not work though if the show is very specific with regards to race and racial issues. I mean, I'm now working on a show called Allegiance, and it's about Japanese Americans that were interned in World War II. So that's the story I'm doing. And because there are white characters or Japanese characters. So here it has to be absolutely specific that you have to get Asian actors to play the Japanese characters and Caucasians to play, obviously, the Caucasian characters, because there is a romance in the show that's interracial. So if it's non-traditional casting, it may not be as potent. So it really depends. I mean, things like Showboat, things like Porgy and Bess, anything where there is a very explicit racial story being told, then you really have to be racially correct. But if it's everybody's pretty much on the playing field and there's no mention of race, there is no mention of anybody being on an uneven playing field, then you can play around with casting, and then you cast based on who can sing the stuff really, really well. So a show like Les Mis, you can cast it non-traditionally. We've had a black Javert. You've had East Asian people or South Asian people in the ensemble. You'll have African Americans. You'll have Filipinos. You'll have Chinese or Korean or whatever in one company, and it totally works because it's not a racially specific show. So it works with that. It would work probably in a show like My Fair Lady, because it's about the girl's tongue and transforming this girl that sells flowers in Covent Garden, you know, into basically turning a sow's ear into a
You'd
silk
be great
purse.
in that.
I did it in the Philippines.
Did you?
I've actually
And you
played
also
a
were
bunch of
Sandy. You were Sandy in Greece in the Philippines. That's
Yes,
right.
I've done Sonia. They're playing our song. And the nice thing about doing stuff in the Philippines, being a Filipino, is that because there is never really a mention of it's not about race, because you presume that everybody that's going to be cast is Filipino, therefore Asian, so you really can play around with casting.
Okay.
Yeah, but
Right.
but I've been able to do a nice cachet of characters in my homeland because, well, there's no such thing as minority.
I agree. Well, thank you, Lea, so much.
You're welcome.
I'll break a leg Friday night.
Thank
I'll
you.
be there cheering you
Excellent.
on.
Thank you.
Come see Lea Salonga, Terrence Mann, Brian Stokes Mitchell. Friday night at the American Airlines Center for Do You Hear the People Sing, and much success. What a pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Same here. Thank you.
Thank you.